Hey yo, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. This is Mondays with Mitch. I'm Mitch, and today we're going to be talking about beat block. And I'm going to give you 6 ways to deal with beat block. Stay tuned.
You are now listening to the sounds of Mood Swing Music Group.
Alright man, so number 1, bottom line, you got to stop saying it. The more you say you got beat block, the more you're going to have beat block. You creating the whole thing in your mind. Basically what you're doing, man, you're telling it to yourself. You feeding it to yourself. You got to stop feeding on that energy, man, because that's negative energy that's going to stop you from making tracks. So bottom line is this, man, you can't be running around talking about, I got beat block, I got beat block, because what you doing, man, is you just instilling it in yourself, and it's going to make it harder for you to move on and do anything musical. So my advice is, stop saying it. You know what I'm saying? When you recognize that you kind of stagnant, step back a little bit. Don't say it. Just step back, relax. You know what I'm saying? Just do some other work in your studio, man. Work on some other stuff, you know what I'm saying? And get back to making music later. Sometimes you probably just need a break anyway. So that's the number 1 thing, man. Just stop saying it. Number 2, man, you might want to try starting with a sample. Sometimes it's easy, man, to just take a sample, find you a sample that sounds really good, loop that sample, and then just start building around that sample, man. Sometimes, man, when you get stuck, it just comes from different things, right? So take a sample, man, some sample that you like to sound really good, loop that baby, start laying your beats and bass lines and stuff on it, man, and just load it up. And sometimes what you could end up doing is actually get rid of the sample once you added all your elements to it, and bam, there you go, man. You created a whole new track, and you kind of let the sample guide you into it. You know, sometimes you're not always gonna come up with the idea yourself, right? Sometimes you get an idea from listening to other music and all kind of stuff. So what you want to do, man, start with a simple sample that just sound good, got good flow to it, make you a beat around it, and like I say, build around it. And then eventually just take everything that you built minus that sample, and I guarantee you, man, you'll probably have something dope. So number 2, man, start with a sample and just build on it and go from there, man. And a lot of times, man, it'll get your juices flowing and get the ideas back flowing. Man, number 3, it's always a good idea. Just get around some other producers, man. You know what I'm saying? We all know other producers doing the same thing we doing. Sometimes just sit in on a session, man. You know what I'm saying? Or just get around some other producers while they working and just listen to what they working on, man, and look at some of the processes they going through and some of the things that they doing. And sometimes it'll give you ideas, and not only give you ideas, you end up helping them with some stuff, right? And that too will get your juices back flowing, and just being around other thinking minds is working on music. And man, you know, it's just that simple, man. Sometimes because we're always in the studio by ourselves, that's just what it is, right? We always in the studio by ourselves, and we so used to listening to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? That it just get normalized to us. So sometimes, man, you gotta, you know, step out, hit a different studio, sit down with some different producers, man, and just look at somebody else's process, listen to what they use, and they might be using different types of bass, different synths, something to give you some ideas, man. So, you know, number 3, man, get around some other producers, feed off of other producers, you know what I'm saying, and just let it flow from there, man. Sometimes, man, you know, we just ain't got ideas going at the time, you know what I'm saying? You might get an idea from being around other producers, you know what I'm saying? So get around some of your friends, man, that's producing music too, man, and just, you know, cock back and chill in the studio, man, and just observe. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, man, if you just sit and listen, you can learn a lot, man. So get around some other producers, man, and get it going, man, that way, man. And it's good to be around other people too, because in the studio, it's a lonely place, man. So number 3, go around other producers, man, and get your juices flowing. And number 4, man, if you uninspired, you know, being uninspired could come from a number of things, man. It can come from being burnt out. You know what I'm saying? It could come from just doing too much of the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like some guys, man, they make only a certain type of music, right? You know, you can do so much of the same thing to where I mean, man, you just run out of ideas, man. The ideas just don't flow once you've done so much, right? So you got to step back, man, and find ways to get inspired again, right? So, and then find ways not to be burnt out. Because once it get to a point, man, you uninspired and it's starting to feel like work and it ain't fun no more, now you got a different problem, right? So my thing is this: if you uninspired, I'll tell you one thing you could definitely do, man. If you uninspired, man, try a different genre. Just pick a genre, something close to what you do. If you make hip hop, try R&B. You know what I'm saying? And just start trying to make music in a different genre and see if it give you some different ideas and have you flowing in a different direction. Sometimes that's all it takes, man. Just switch it up just a little. Not a lot, just a little. If you switch it just a little, man, you'll come up with tons more ideas, man, versus trying to sit there and keep pecking away at that same genre you've been making music in for the longest and you're running out of ideas for it. Pick a different genre, something close to what you do, and man, I guarantee you, man, you'll stop being uninspired, because what it'll do, it'll test you. Because now you're at the point where you'll get to a point where it's like, I know I can do this, right? I know I can do it. If I was making trap beats, or if I was making sample beats, boom bap beats, or whatever, right? I know I can make an R&B beat. You know what I'm saying? You'll test yourself, and the more you test yourself, man, ideas gonna start to flow that way too. So man, if you uninspired, if you burn out, man, just try a different genre that's close to the genre that you make, and I guarantee you, man, you're gonna have a bunch of ideas just spark instantly, man. And number 5, man, one of the best things you could possibly do when you feel like you got beat block, man, listen to some of your older finished tracks that you really like. All of us got tracks that we really like. Man, go back and listen to them, man. Just sit in your studio and just play your tracks, man. Go through your track list, man, and just listen. And what you're listening for, listen for what you haven't made yet. You see what I'm saying? Because it's something you haven't made yet in the genre you work in, right? So listen for what you haven't made yet. And once you figure out what that is, start working on it, man. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you get stagnant because you leaving all that other work behind. You keep trying to do new, trying to do new, trying to do new. Stop trying to be so new. You could possibly just sit down and listen to your tracks. If you got 10 tracks that you love a lot, listen to those 10 tracks. And when you're done listening, say, now what am I missing? What kind of track am I missing, right? And whatever kind of track you missing, man, just sit down and start pecking away at it. I guarantee you, if you look at it at that from that aspect, you should be fine, man. Because to me, basically, it's no such thing as beat block. You know what I'm saying? I just think that it's times where we get distracted. We got a lot of stuff going on. We may not always feel like doing music. You don't always feel like doing music, but I know a lot of times we'll sit down because we don't have nothing else to do and we'll try to do music. And you know what I'm saying? That's when you run into those times where you really don't come up with nothing. That's not beat block. That just means that your mind preoccupied with other stuff, man. You need to clear your mind and, just get back to the basics, man. So sit down, listen to some of your older tracks, man. I mean, bang them out, listen to them, see what elements they missing. See what elements you would have added to tracks and build a new track based off of that information, man. So number 5, man, listen to some of your tracks that you got completed already and build off of that. And number 6, man, the final one, man, for what we call beat block that I think can get you past it, man, is man, when you feeling that way, man, just sit down and start programming drum patterns. Just start making some of the dopest drum patterns you can make, right? Don't even try to put music to them. Just sit down and say, I'm gonna put drum patterns together so dope that they gonna sound musical. And from that, you just may start coming up with some, you could even work on melodies, without the intention of making a track though. Just sit down and just work on melodies, man. Pull up you something, a synth or something, and just start pecking away at melodies. Turn your arpeggiators on, man. Just start using everything. Arpeggiators, you can use all kind of reverbs, you can use all kind of delays, and start making use of melodies. And sometimes just making melodies will get the juices going, right? And if you're not good at making melodies, start working on some of your chords. And then sometimes as you make chord progressions, you know what I'm saying, you start coming up with stuff too based off those chord progressions, man. So you can build off of things one by one, right? So like I said, you can do drum patterns, you can do melodies, you can do chord progressions, you can even do like bass lines. You know what I'm saying? You might like bass lines. You know what I'm saying? You could work on your 808 skills. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that stuff separate, man, will lead you into making music, right? Sometimes what it is, man, we sit down and we got so much in front of us too. You got to remember that, man. I mean, from the alchemies to the omnispheres and all this stuff, to all these VSTs we got in our computers, man, and then all the analog gear. Sometimes, man, we just got so much in front of us that's where your block is. Your block is coming from having too much. You got an abundance, and what happens is you sit down and you literally get confused as to what you want to start with or what you want to do or what sound you want to make. You have to narrow it down sometimes. And sometimes, man, just turn on your piano and get going. Turn on your bass line and get going. Pull up your drum kit and get going. So number 6 and the final one, man, is look, work on things individually. You know what I'm saying? If it's drum patterns, if it's chord progressions, if it's melodies, if it's bass lines, if it's tuning 808s and learning stuff like that, man, look, like I always say, man, don't just be a producer, be productive. Get in the studio, be working on something. Whatever you're working on, make sure it's better than the last time. And that's what I be talking about, man. You think that's just a slogan. Every time you get in the studio, you're not gonna make a track.